Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today's podcast, first podcast of Elevate the Focus Group podcast. We're here with our Focus CX team. We're going to have a conversation with Matthew and Sam around what Focus CX is, why it's important, and all kind of AI around those things as well, so you guys can get a feel for what that is. So we'll start with a hello, Matthew and Sam, and if you'd like to give an introduction in your own words of what you do and who you are.
I'm being called Matthew. That's
full name.
Sorry,
have you been naughty? Have you been naughty?
Amazing. Yeah, no, thank you. Matt Jones. So I head up the Focus CX team essentially, but I think the key thing to say is we've employed a lot of very clever people behind the scenes who, we've got a lot of history around contact center, which I can go into.
Yeah.
Which is the groundwork for a lot of the stuff that we actually do now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, it's just been a crazy year, amazing. And halfway through the year, we hired the AI guy, who is Sam.
Commonly referred to, yeah. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Carl. So I am Sam, and I often get referred to as the AI guy. I suppose formally I'm like an AI and automation specialist, but been involved in a lot of the sort of, movement across towards these sort of automation pieces in the last, I've been here for 5-6 months or so, but I know that it's been happening for the last...
It coincided when it feels like we start to know what we're actually talking about.
Get to it.
I don't think it's got anything to do with me, but yeah, perhaps, maybe.
Okay, cool. So you're both in the team. Just for the audience's reference as a starting point, what is Focus CX and why does it exist? Why do we have a Focus CX?
So it's definitely not a product.
Because
it's the place to start. It's a team. It's a team of specialists. And I think to help, it's probably good to go back and talk a little bit about the future and where we came from. I was taught by a guy called Steve Donovan. I've worked with him for 15 years, probably a little bit longer. And Steve was always so clued into solution selling. Let's just not sell stuff for the, let's find the problem. Let's find the customer's problem and then build out a solution. I mean, he's been doing this for years and years and years and taught so many people along that way. We went into business and then we were acquired by Focus Group 18 months ago. So that was primarily as a contact center.
Sure.
Going into quite big contact centers and helping them with that whole piece around how do they support their customers, improve the interactions with customers. Focus Group came along, which has been amazing. It's been a roller coaster because it's such a, it's just a bigger company than what Make Contact was, which was a literal business. So we've worked hard with some of the guys. Rich Osborne's been massively involved in it, in creating this little team of kind of specialists now who focus purely on the customer experience. So, and I think it's changed a lot where we were very used to working with bigger organizations, but the difference we could have with smaller organizations is huge. And that's the bit that Sam we're working a hell of a lot on at the moment.
So it's not just business operational element. You're kind of going, this is the customer we're talking to, but what does their journey for their customers look like?
Absolutely.
And how do we support this?
I think that's where we're focused, isn't it? The customer journey, something that we're giving a lot of thought to. Certainly in my world and my experience, if we pay heed or pay attention to that customer journey, we see a lot more success. And, with customer experience, we've got a lot more opportunity now than there were, say, 10, 15 years ago, because there's far more tools available, aren't there, to improve that. AI being a massive big, of course, it's a buzzword to some extent, but it's a fact that it's here, and it's arguably it's going to be here to stay in some capacity, and it's having a big impact across all sectors at the moment.
It's the most exciting time. For me in our industry, I was an engineer, and we went through the whole IP.
That's where I started.
Plugging IP phones in, which was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, now it's just where are we going to be? We were talking about this. Where are we going to be in 12 months' time? What will the world look like from an AI point of view in 12 months' time? And we talked about this hype, didn't we?
Yeah, this hype cycle. Exactly. And I think that's a really good point because, like we've been through quite a few of these hype cycles, right? With the likes of like .com and so NFTs, got 5 years ago or whatever, and there's going to be people out there that are questioning the capabilities of AI and stuff like that. And is it just another bubble? Well, there's many projects out there that are going to fail, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple fact.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure that we're part of the solutions that are mature and are here to stay.
They're moving that needle forward along that customer experience journey,
Exactly
rather than just
right.
a gimmick. That
Exactly right.
Looks like
Exactly
right.
right.
And there's a team of 17, 18 now, was in Manchester, who challenge each other every day. We're very open about the technology and how it can improve. We've even got an AI dartboard, haven't we? So but their primary role is to support the Focus sales team. And educate. And if you look at the last 12 months, that education's been so. The conversations that the sales team are having, it's improved so much. Brilliant.
Yeah, the interactions that we're getting now are vastly different from even just when I started. Not whole heaps, not that long ago. But I think the buy-in now, the people are seeing where the value is, and I think going after it essentially. Like they can see where their customers will benefit from these types of technologies, and I think we're getting some real traction.
Yeah. And is that from going into a salesperson speaking about maybe the business operational side of things, like, you've got this technology, we want to upgrade it to this sort of stuff, but now because they're focused on that CX journey, it's more around we need to understand and discover what that looks like, and so it's more of a solution element to it rather than.
I think the most important thing at the moment is being inquisitive. Ask questions of your customers out there.
Exactly.
Where are you at now? And we talked about this, the whole AI itch bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And I've got some great stories we can.
Let's touch on.
What
is that?
So, do you want to go into the AI itch now?
Yeah. 18 months ago, and we weren't doing a lot of AI at the time. If I'm honest, we were using Chat GPT.
Of course,
What does GPT stand for, Sam?
Wow, now it put me on the spot. Generative pre-trained transformer, I think. Right? Hopefully, I'll be called out in the audience if I've got it wrong.
How many people knew that?
We'll find out. I mean,
but no, I got a phone call off our biggest customer, great relationship with them, and he said, "Matt, I need AI." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." So we didn't do anything real. We did a bit, but nothing major.
Yeah.
And I said, why do you need AI? He says, I've had a board meeting. We need to implement AI. Like, right.
Any idea how? Any idea how or why? No.
And
just heard the buzzword. We've got to do this.
But you know what? The end game was we actually, within a couple of months, implemented a platform that told him how his customers were feeling about their business. So how were the interactions with them as a business?
Okay.
What was the reason for the conversation? Right. All of those sorts of things. And also, we talked about this journey, didn't we? Mm-hmm. It was the beginning of their AI automation process, because now we actually understood why customers were ringing. We can then start to plan and understand how can we actually take them down an automated route for certain parts of that.
Yeah, exactly right.
So we scratched the itch essentially. And we've got so many customers who are probably in that. Yeah,
in that sort of similar zone. One thing I would add sort of is that we get very few, I would say, I don't know the exact numbers, but we get very few people that would come to us knowing what their particular business challenge is. They like Matt's alluded to there. I can think of one case, and we might speak about them in a bit, but they came to us and they had a very, very real, very tangible problem. Said, I've got this problem. I think AI can solve it. Can you help? Right. And we did. But the vast majority of cases, the vast majority of conversations that we go into are normally like, they don't know. They don't know what problem. They know that AI is out there. They know that AI is being able to solve many different problems, but they don't know exactly how it's going to solve
what it is,
their
what it can do, and what problems they might have.
Exactly, and they might, exactly like you said, they might not even know what problems they've got. Yeah, you don't know what, the unknown unknowns, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we sort of have this conversation. We've got a few different products that we can deploy.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of a sort of a tagline, a bit of a cliche that goes something along the line of understand before we automate, right?
Which is a conversational intelligence.
It's a conversational intelligence piece, right? So where we're able to overlay this piece of technology on over basically any sort of phone system, right? As long as the calls are recorded. And what it does is it breaks down the conversations that people are having with their customers.
Okay.
It tells you what good conversations look like, picks out sentiment, it takes the notes automatically for them. But ultimately, the more important thing is it highlights where there are gaps in the business and what's not being said and what's not being sold and so on and so forth. Compliance issues, exactly
automatically
right.
look at those and tag them. Or Carl, you might be the best support person.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but now I can actually understand it. Carl's the best, but the reason why you are the best is because you introduce yourself really well, or you show empathy.
Yeah. You're understanding.
Because you can get, I suppose, in a traditional contact center, good practice might be judged by particular KPI measures, which could be hiding other areas, and you get workforce optimization, all those kind of tools that were in the past, where they would go, well, we'll just spot check about 10% of
really
stuff.
good point. Really good
But
point.
actually, sometimes those KPIs that are involved, when I used to work on the service sector, one of the KPIs was how many tickets can you close, or how quickly can you close your tickets. Well, actually, that KPI drives the wrong behaviour, doesn't it? Because I might end up with unhappy customers because I'm closing tickets. They're coming back in.
So on the dashboard, it's like,
it looks good. It looks good, but in reality, you've got a set of unhappy customers. Exactly.
I mean, that's where that technology for certain customers is so powerful, because it can identify those repeat calls. So why are we getting repeat calls?
Yeah.
And an AI will then analyse that. And it'll also analyse it to say, well, actually, Sam, you're the reason we keep getting repeat calls. We need to do some training.
I'm the weak link.
So that's, and it's a great, I love this whole thing because around the analytical part and using AI from an analytical point of view, rather than starting like aggressively with front-end AI,
customer facing,
because that's, if you think about your brand, you've just got to be careful with that as a starting point. Use the analytical piece first is where we have a lot of conversations.
I was going to say, you almost kind of, in a way, so if you're starting with discovery to understand that journey, then you're almost scratching a small itch in that first place by putting an AI conversational intelligence in, but it's doing the understanding rather than solving the problem at this point. It's kind of going, let's show you exactly where we are with this, I think, where you are with this, rather.
Exactly, and it's about that risk appetite as well. I think Matt just mentioned it there. Essentially, like, it's a good way in, it's a good foot in the door, and then from there, once you do identify the gaps, then you can be perhaps a little bit more bold in your approach, and you can sort of deploy, it doesn't even need to be customer facing at first, but sort of agentic AI solutions. Perhaps we should maybe explain a little bit about what agentic AI is. And again, filled with buzzwords, aren't we? But so obviously everyone's familiar with the idea of AI being able to answer questions and stuff like that. I remember back in the early days of ChatGPT when you ask it to write you a poem or something like that, or tell me a joke. But with agentic AI, the idea is that we've moved from something that just answers questions to something that takes action. So something that can maybe book an appointment for you, or tell you when your order's due or something like that. So it can.
I'm laughing because we were trying to explain. Well, we were explaining. Yesterday. The Turkish restaurant, and it's a great example. So I'll let you finish that.
No.
We'll tell the story of Mal.
And
I promise we will get him in.
Yeah, he did. He wanted a bit of a shout out, didn't he?
Shout out to Mal.
Yeah, always. What a top one.
Yeah. So that's the main difference, really. So it's the sort of the next step in the AI process is something that's just able to write you an email to something that can sort of take action. Really.
They're not perfect to begin with. We need to, and we were having a bit of a laugh with Malcolm yesterday because as he was tucking into his Moussaka. But there's a lot of programmable areas to an agentic AI agent, and the first go at it, you've got to do a lot of testing. Test it, understand. the first few days of the implementation was so important because, I'd actually say, get it going and switch it off and really analyse the information, the data. But Mark was saying he was trying to book a dentist appointment, and he said, it's great, this technology, but it just didn't sound human.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's fair enough. We are working so hard, and actually now it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I kind of sat there with Mark. I said, "That's really good point." Mark. But I tell you what, and from a customer experience point of view, how more frustrated would you have been if you'd have rang your dentist and it was just ringing, ringing, or you got a voicemail,
or busy tone,
on hold for 20 minutes.
And that's the bit that we've got to look at is the technology is going to get there.
It is going to.
But it's the experience that we're trying to, the customers end up with is improving drastically. And from a customer and a company's point of view, that dentist got Malcolm booked in.
Yeah, it did. So it solved his problem.
And the dentist ended up looking after Malcolm, whereas otherwise the dentist would have had to make another call. So it's a workload.
And actually, that person that typically would have answered that call can probably get on with other
jobs.
Exactly.
And we're seeing that particularly in like the cases of sort of car garages or hairdressers and stuff like that, where a lot of the time, the people answering the phones are the mechanics or the hairdressers.
It's got a timer in their hand.
Exactly. So the last thing they want to be doing is answering the phone.
Is this going to be long?
Yeah, exactly. Just going back a step though, you actually mentioned the idea, and I think we've had this conversation before as well, that the idea that these sort of voice agents, they sound pretty close to human, right? But you can normally tell. You can normally tell that you're not speaking to a human.
Yeah.
And so we've had this, I wouldn't call it a dilemma as such, but it's an interesting conversation with several customers about, well, you need to be quite honest about the fact that it's not
pull the wool.
Don't try and pull the wool over people's heads. Especially, if there's like, older members or whatever, or older people answering the phone, they might be less sure about whether they're speaking to a human or an AI.
Yeah.
And I think being open, honest, and having the AI introduce itself as, an AI receptionist or an AI assistant or whatever it might be, I think is an important feature,
100%.
So that people will feel a bit more reassured in that case. That's certainly the experience that we've had.
And it's not about replacing human beings.
Good point.
That's so important.
Because that's a worry, I think, for a lot of people.
That's a really fair point.
And we've got some really good examples of where we're implementing AI to support human beings, because actually we're all so busy in our lives that you can't do everything. I mean, within Focus is a great example on a project we're working on at the moment, whereby we're looking at how we've got a certain number of tickets open from a support point of view that have been open for a while.
Okay.
Now, those tickets, they're in limbo essentially, and we can't call them a customer potentially. But how good would it be just to use a little outbound agent, AI agent, just to make a call to the customer? Hi, I'm Mr. Customer. Just wanted to check. We've got ticket reference 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 still open. It's been there for 10 days.
Yeah.
Do you want me to escalate it, or would you like to close it down?
Right. Okay.
And then we can automatically do that in the back end, escalate it, close it down. That's not taking a human's job necessarily, supporting a really busy team of people.
Exactly right.
I remember seeing something online, and you might be able to comment on this, where it's almost a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, in a good way, where you've got something like an AI agent doing that kind of front-end work, and it's learning through that experience as well at the same time. But then it's almost like that example you just given. Let's just say that person did want the ticket to stay open, and they gather some information through their agent, and then the agent goes, right, I've gathered all that, now I'll pass you through to someone. So it's enriching the beginning of it almost. Is that, I can't remember where I saw it, might have been on LinkedIn or something like that, but it was someone done a diagram of these things, and it almost kind of circulates.
So we're bringing some solutions in the next couple of months. One of them being just a front end AI, essentially an AI receptionist, right? That is doing that.
Just like a filter, so collect data collection and then passes that through, and we can route it to whoever it needs to go to. and that person would then be armed with a full list of information about who the person was, what they were calling about, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it just takes away some of that frustration, that initial friction, and then they can go into a more meaningful conversation.
Give people an out. So if I want to speak to a human,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is quickly summarize that conversation that you had with the AI agent, and push that summary into the human being, so that as the human's answering the call to the customer, the customer doesn't have to repeat themselves. I can see, right, Carl, I understand your frustration. You want to speak to a human. I understand where we're up to. Let me just look into it. So it's that journey is, supporting him and improving.
And another sort of element to all this, again, all these, I think, really, really strong points. But it's that, if you want to just deploy something like this AI receptionist type bot, then you could just have it as an overflow or an out of hours thing at first, just to sort of wet your whistle or dip your toe in the water. And if because if you're trying to provide a human first service, which lots of industries, say the hospitality sector, they obviously really champion, really strong on this sort of human touch. Completely understand, and I get it. But there might be some service is better than no service, as you sort of touched on before, right? So if it is 4 a.m. and someone's got I don't know, whatever, they need a towel or something, then take the bot could answer that query maybe.
Got to start though with what is the problem we're trying to fix. Always go back to that. Because most AI projects fail if we don't do that, because you just
the scattergun approach doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So we're kind of just to summarize some of it so far, we've moved from a business operational kind of, we put a solution in because they've got something and they're trying to go, oh, we need some more users or we need to upgrade to this, rather over to this CX element now, which is around customer experience. What does the journey look like for your customers? And then we're looking at these technologies in place to say, well, actually, what are you trying to do? It's more discovery led, it's more solution led. What's the problem that you guys are facing? Maybe you don't know what that problem looks like. So we start kind of trying to understand what that business is trying to do. You're on that journey already from the starting point. And then you can look at the technologies around, say, look, we're not trying to replace anyone internally. This is about enriching the experience for the customer 100%. And then actually creating those tools from the back end for the people in the business to be able to do their jobs more efficiently.
I think that's
and if you look at the team in Manchester, the Focus CX team, it's a bunch of geeks essentially. I'm not,
Speak for yourself.
But the excitement that the team get when they see a solution go in, you can use an example. So it's a really good opportunity to use the exact example in a second. But we see the solution go in, and straight away you understand the benefits. And it's like a game to see how you can more finely tune the platform to improve the rate in which we can deal with customers' interactions. We've got a great example, haven't we, where over Christmas, Inkify.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I sort of briefly touched on this before, but it's a really good use case and a really good example I enjoy talking about. So it's an e-commerce platform, right?
Inkify is the business.
Inkify is the business, exactly. It's an e-commerce platform, quite relatively small, sort of five people.
If you're ever in trouble around Valentine's Day, Christmas, look at Inkify.
I'm sure we can sort you a discount code.
Sort your discount code. They do fantastic frames and personalised
special occasions like wedding photographs, all that kind of stuff. Really, really good.
Or peaky traffic. So traffic's a bit, on
Valentine's
Day.
Exactly. So they get a huge amount of traffic up into around Christmas. From Black Friday up to Christmas, it can be chaos for them. And so a huge number of phone calls and emails asking where their products are, right? Because of course delivery times elongate around these periods, and people satisfied with the product, but perhaps not so satisfied with how long it's taken to get to them. It's a difficult situation that's often out of their hands. But what we were able to implement is a website-based chat widget where people could go on, they could enter a few details like their email address and their order number, and it would tell them, it would just go in the back end, it would go and do a bit of a dive into their database, and it would tell them what was the status of the order. So had it been shipped or not, and if it hadn't been shipped, roughly how long is the estimate for when it will be shipped. And so, we're seeing, well, in the month of December, I think it handled about 1,500, just shy of 1,600 conversations.
60-odd%.
More, close to 70%.
But when it started, it was 40%.
Yeah. Wow. So we just make it clear, solved 70% of those queries, and then at the start it was around 40%. So in a really short space of time.
Is that through a learning mechanism that it increased?
Both essentially. So it's updated knowledge and information contained in the back end of the bot, and improved prompts. So we like I say, it's a dynamic process.
That journey that you're on about earlier, where you kind of go on the journey, you're in the customer, it's kind of we're looking at this, we're at 40%, right? Let's tweak some of these bits, improve the prompts.
Right.
It's not like you don't buy a phone and put it on the desk and leave
it. So it's not static.
You've got to continue that whole process.
Yeah, and so. Even this morning, I was involved in a conversation between the developers and the business owner and stuff like that. And it's on the next step of the journey now, and looking at email automations and stuff, so that when the customers like email in and say, "Hi, I've got a problem with this," or whatever, any sort of any typical question they may get, the same sort of intelligence piece behind the scenes is able to sort of read the email, break it down, and provide a response. And it will send it back out to the customer and say, "Oh, sorry, we've got this and this offer," or whatever the question was. And of course, the customer has the option to raise the ticket to a human if necessary. But we're hoping to see 70% plus of these sort of common queries solved by the bot again. So taking a huge amount of traffic away from someone having to respond manually to these hundreds of emails that are coming in.
So if you look from an owner's point of view of that business, all of a sudden you've got much better visibility on the web of how the website's performing.
Yeah.
And also you're actually, I think email is one of the most frustrating journeys for a customer. Because what tends to happen is, if you're frustrated, you send an email, you get an automated response, which is, we've logged your ticket, we'll come back to you. I'm now waiting.
Mm-hmm.
That could be 4 or 5 days. I then get a response from a human being saying, you didn't give me all the information.
Please provide
more to actually support you.
Yeah.
And then
another 4 or 5 days.
Experience is just going
through the floor.
So actually, by just front ending it with something like an AI agent, just to do that first check. Right, Carl, you've given me your name, you've given me your reference number, your email is in a position, I can move it forward now.
Yeah.
It means that you're not having to wait 10 days potentially just to get to a point where...
And I suppose as well, when you're a smaller business and you're trying to grow, there's always a million levers that you could pull, and getting the analytics from this sort of stuff probably gives you a bit of a directional focus. Say, well, at least we're solving that problem, but it's actually giving me clear focus on where we need to improve first before we start. I thought it was over here, but it's actually here.
A rig, like a mirror, mirror what's going on.
It's like those things, like the unknown unknowns that we mentioned earlier. Like you might well think that your website's good. It might not be great, but it's good. But you don't know where the gaps are. You don't know where can I improve it. But this is giving you this tool is giving you good insight. In fact, off the back of the bot implementation, though he's made significant changes to the FAQs on the website because he was seeing the questions that were getting asked time and time again.
Yeah,
and he was like, well, clearly I just need to have this more prominent.
It's an accurate feedback.
It's accurate feedback, and it's by in its very nature, it's completely unbiased. Do you know what I mean? There's no so it's really a really good tool for that.
Amazing. Yeah,
I've never actually. Are you ChatGPT or Claude?
Oh, is that my preference?
Which
well, do you know what? I would have said until recently I was ChatGPT, but I migrated over to Claude. Yeah, I think it's a really powerful tool. Well, I just think it's a lot more powerful in a lot of ways that's useful to me.
Yeah.
So in terms of generating responses to in fact improving prompts, bot prompts is a really, really powerful tool, a powerful use case for using Claude. So for the starting point for a lot of these bots is you have to provide it with a comprehensive prompt telling the bot who it is and what it can do and what it can't do and stuff like that. And it's an iterative process. There's an art to it. There's an art to it. And of course, we use AI to assist us in this process. But But it's an iterative process. You don't just go away and do it once and just give me a prompt, right? Because it's not good enough, right? So what you do is you feed it in, you test it, you tweak it, feed it back in, and so on and so on. And then what you end up with is a really powerful, comprehensive prompt.
I think you've moved since we had those issues with ChatGPT, didn't we?
Yeah.
And that was the flip. Have you ever seen an AI guy without ChatGPT? Because I've got a lot to say.
That's unpowered by it. People think I am AI. Starting with you first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe I am a robot.
Perfect. So that's a really good use case in terms of impact and stuff. And did they have a problem statement in the beginning? It's like, we're a small business with the 5 people and we're just getting hammered over here, like you say, because it's those peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
Did they know that was the bottleneck that they were
Exactly, and that's quite rare, isn't it? Yeah.
Human could not have dealt with the
Yeah, they weren't dealing with. They were floundering from that perspective. I mean, in terms of they were inundated, and they were like, we are struggling to meet the demands of this.
It's brutal as well, isn't it, these days? Because you've got things like Trustpilot or straight away. You measured on there, so actually, it's really
they have got a really good Trustpilot score. They're a great, they're a really great company. They provide a good service, but because they're doing so well, they get a lot of traffic, and they just weren't able to meet those demands.
And those things like Trustpilot are sorry, Matt. Those things like Trustpilot are huge now, isn't it? And I can't remember who. There's a famous saying that I can't remember who said it now, but it's something like 20 years to build your reputation, and then
20 minutes to destroy it.
But if you look at that business, most of the people who purchase from, something like an online, would be probably in the evening of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the challenge is also supporting people at
24/7.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the technology lends itself, really well.
Because a lot of businesses will have lower staff count over the weekend. And
correct. Correct. Exactly.
Okay, so
the data is so powerful.
Okay, fine.
This is a good point.
Behind the scenes, the data is the story that it's unraveling. You can once you understand the data, you can start then making decisions, pulling those levers. Which one you should have pulled. That's where it lights up, doesn't it, with the data?
And do you need data before you're starting, or the data comes through this process?
You do to a certain degree, don't you?
Yeah, and we've had a back and forth on this, haven't we? George, you want to?
Well, so one of the things we get when we speak, or perhaps it comes from customers, is we have to go full automation. Like, we need to go the whole hog.
Well, that's their mindset with it.
Possibly, but not the mindset. More that can. That's the thought process, or what's one of the challenges of this is I need to
a bit all or nothing kind of thing.
And actually,
change the whole thing.
Yeah,
the first step is the most important, and even if it's a tiny little one. We talked about call transcription, summarization of calls using AI to automatically transcribe and summarize calls is a great first step.
Yeah,
there's other examples. You talk about basically brightening and bringing to life a website for a customer. So if I went to a customer's website, I don't have to trawl through all the information on there.
Like a front end.
Just ask the AI agent.
Yeah,
it's so simple.
Yeah,
and it's the first step, and it's actually brilliant because the data I can then understand. We can then understand what questions the customer's asking, which then allows us to understand if we can automate it. Right. So that first step is so important in helping us map out the whole piece.
That's exactly. It's vital to us, and it's slightly looking at it on a slightly different angle, the data piece, and we've had conversations in different verticals and stuff like that. Particularly hospitality, I'm going to use as an example. They had concerns over their own data, didn't they? And I think one of the sort of reservations, amongst other things, that they had of AI is that, well, the data that we have at our disposal isn't good enough. And the whole, and I agree with this, rubbish in gives you rubbish out, a bit like a calculator or whatever. If you put the wrong thing in, you get the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And of course, that's true. But we also have, again, starting small, carrying on with that theme, we have a lot of solutions where we don't need a huge amount of data to be input to make this work, or to get some benefits or efficiency out of this. Going back to the example of sort of, like an FAQ bot or something like that could just be pinned onto a website, and it can answer questions, or it can provide answers to things that you might not find on the website, or you might end up picking up the phone for. It doesn't require heaps of data.
I think an average FAQ is 20 questions.
Something like that.
10 questions, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so the quality of the data really is of minimal impact in that situation. And yeah, so I just wanted to make that point, because I don't want people to be deterred from the idea of it because they're worried about the data. Although data, cleanliness and so on, and organisation is a concern. But it's not necessarily a barrier.
The data, you're never going to complete the data.
No,
game,
exactly.
It's so difficult. It's always evolving, and you've got to adapt to that. And
what's interesting is the use case you just went through there was a significant high impact by the sounds of what they've been able to make changes from. But it was a 5-user business, which is surprising, because when you think of like the Microsoft of the world and these big enterprise customers, this is a 5-user business that have been able to implement some of that's really moved the needle for them in many ways.
Yeah, huge difference.
So it's almost open door to any business, small business, medium business, large business.
I think we talk so much. It starts with walking in your customer's shoes. Like, understand the challenges that your customers, in our instance, because obviously we're providing our customers with that. But how is it? What is it like to deal with you as a business, and how can we improve that?
Yeah,
and that's what, if you go back to the whole Linkify solution, that's all we were trying to do, is make it easier, make it easy to deal with that, that query around when's that delivery going to come. So if we start with the customer in mind, it's the best way of then mapping out our whole journey.
And actually, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I wonder if that kind of conversation is useful for the customer themselves, because I remember this with just telephony in the background with just cloud or whatever, speaking to a customer about like, how does this work? How does the customer come through to you? And it's like, oh, we're not sure. We've got an IVR doing this. It's like, have you ever actually called your own number to see what it's like and see what that flow is like? And there's probably a lot of businesses that don't even know what it feels like coming.
I know this is a really stupid question. But do you know why your customers are ringing you?
Yeah.
And it opens up the whole conversation of, well, most people probably think they do, which is fine, but you can challenge that. Technology.
How well do you know?
And when they do ring you, what is that experience like?
There's processes internally in the business, but then they've gone like, this is what we provide to the business, but they've never gone, well, actually, what does it feel like actually coming through? Like?
It's so hard to take yourself out of. Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, right? So,
and also most businesses will spot check. I think we talked about this before. Maybe 3% of calls. What about the other
9%? It's a substantial amount.
It's a lot of calls.
And
that's where AI can just deal with that whole piece. And give, whether it's team leaders, business owners, the time and data to start making better decisions.
Perfect. So we've done Focus CX, not a product. It's a team of specialists. Focused on the journey for the customer, and within that we've got a portfolio of tools, AI-backed automation, where we're understanding that journey and then seeing which things we need to bring in, whether it's agents, email, any of those elements, WhatsApp,
voice,
so any kind of chat or omni-channel, or omni-channel as we call it in the industry, but anything a customer may engage with you on website, WhatsApp, phone. Through to customer example, which is great because there's going to be lots of people listening to this where they go, well, I'm a 5-user business. This could be huge for me. But then someone in a bigger business go, well, if they're making that impact, think what it could do for us.
For sure.
That's going to cover it. Is there, I suppose, maybe to kind of go through some of the other bits that I've got down, is there a barrier to entry or a way that, I think the examples cover it quite nicely, but a barrier to entry for certain people, or is it just about if you've got an interest in this, you need to kind of go, let's just have a chat and we can work out whether there's a problem there. And then I suppose layering into that, the different examples you're getting, are you getting a base or a template of like what good CX looks like? Or is it very vertical dependent, and those barriers of entry or those kind of questions people have are going to be vertical dependent as well? Or you start to see kind of similarities around those?
Yeah, I think I would always start, it's the data, is the insight. I think understanding is the first point, isn't it? If I think the consistency that we're seeing is a lot of people really like the idea that I now understand what's going on when a customer calls me, why a customer's calling me, how are they feeling about that, and that's the we tend to see that a lot, don't we?
Yeah, so exactly, and I think so. The whole thing about understanding before automation is like it's a nice message and a good journey. But what we have at the moment for the smaller end users, the conversation intelligence, let's be honest, it might not be appropriate for them at the moment.
Yeah.
So what we have coming in the not too distant future, and this might form another conversation later down the line.
Sure.
Is this we're going to have a different version of conversation intelligence, aren't we? Which would be a powerful tool, and it would work really, really well for those small number of seats.
Why should this technology only be available
to the corporate side? Yeah,
it can have an even bigger difference for smaller organisations.
And now we've tried. Well,
so we're there pretty much with that.
Yeah, and so that will allow for this kind of understand before automate for everyone, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's kind of our goal for the next 6 months or so, isn't it? Or is that certainly one of our 100%. Goals? Yeah.
It has to come back down to return on investment. Why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Our aims are for always the technology pays for itself. Like it's just that's the role of the Focus CX team, is to make that work. That's the driver here. Improve customer experience and also make sure that the platform pays for itself through that journey. Have we answered the question?
I don't know. We danced around it a little bit, didn't we? But
I was going to say,
was all the questions on that list?
Was it a political answer?
I was going to say that the bit that I was taken away from that is almost verticals agnostic. It doesn't really matter. I suppose if you're understanding in the beginning, and then if they've got a problem statement, you explore there first. If they don't, this helps you kind of create the problem statements almost in itself.
Do you know what? I'll own up to this.
Yeah.
We are not experts in all these different verticals.
Sure. Yeah. It's difficult. You can't be.
And we've got people within the business who are much more, understanding in certain areas.
Yeah.
We enjoy understanding and seeing how the technology can help in a certain vertical, and then we can talk about it. It's like, what a great example. We've got some great ones in travel, haven't we? Where actually, and this is such a good example, the conversation intelligence piece for a customer of ours taught them that they need to start selling a particular product because
it's some travel insurance, right?
On nearly every call, the customer asks, "Can I buy some travel insurance off them?" So actually, from a customer's point of view, a business's point of view, it opened a door to then do a partnership with a travel insurance business.
So they have a completely new revenue stream straight off the back of that.
So wow, okay, cool. That's a great example. So we're learning so much every time we kind of get involved.
I actually did that with Jet2 recently when we were away last week with Jet2. And I would normally go to a separate Google to get travel insurance from what they've used in the past. But within the platform of me booking, there was travel insurance in there, and I was like, "Oh, this is just easy."
Even if it costs a little bit more, the simplicity of it.
You can reduce friction as much as possible, because there's already so many things, especially in travel, when you're trying to prepare or whatever. So that again, like turning the needle in that area, let's say it's a revenue stream, but the customer experience again, it's going to be much better for that customer, because if they're asking for it now, it's going to be there, and people that haven't asked for it because they've not thought to. It's like, I can speak this is here now.
Yeah, definitely. Just returning briefly to the sort of verticalization element, or sector-specific challenges, we do see that there are talking to different sectors is quite different. Some sectors are quite open to it. I think e-commerce platforms recognise that they have to, right? I think in some capacity, there's very little friction there.
Yeah.
There are some sectors, I think I've sort of alluded to it earlier, that the hospitality sector, and I can completely understand it. So I can completely understand why this is the case. But then, that human feel, that human touch, when you turn up to a hotel, particularly a nice hotel, you want to be greeted. You may even want your bags, carried up to your room for you and stuff like that. And when you ring up, you want, "Hi, sir," whatever. And so,
You can tell he's been staying at the Grand Hotel. Right?
yeah. Oh yeah, please take me.
Yeah.
It's not you this
It's
time.
not
Matt.
me.
I don't know, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I live a nice life.
Yeah.
Right? Thanks, Matt. So yeah, but you know, and there are different challenges in different sectors, and you know, the uptake will be different across the board. But I think, quite honestly, I think it's there's no sector that's gonna be outside of this completely. I think every sector will see some impact from it somewhere.
It's just understanding what that might look like.
Exactly, and how best to implement it, and you don't want to.
No. Yeah. Have you got any easy questions on that? Like
Well,
yes, no.
Yeah,
I saw
binary answers.
I think we've covered a lot of them, and I'm just thinking this is probably a bit of a steal from Steve Bartlett, but the question that pops into my head that he's asked in the past is there anything we've not covered that we should have covered?
Ooh.
So is there anything that is important?
I've got one.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to say I've sat in the worst place for it, haven't I? So sorry about that.
Sorry.
I'll make sure I buy a bigger shirt.
If someone hits the screen, it's a button.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Censored. You're going to have to censor parts of this. So I've got one thing I would like to mention. The idea, I think it's come up in a conversation before, a bit like, the case a little while ago with the idea of greenwashing. And we now hear the phrase AI washing, sort of saying, the AI solution, when it's not really an AI solution and stuff like that, or indeed a slightly different angle, trying to crowbar AI into a situation. That's not really our mantra, is it? It's not really our ethos. We're very much about finding solutions. And if AI is going to help and automation is going to help, then we will go for it. Yeah. But we're certainly not about just crowbarring it in.
Yeah.
And we're also not about labeling things.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're also not about labeling things as AI when they're not really. Like we use very, very real, like, large language models and stuff to power our technology, don't we? That's the only thing I would have mentioned, yeah.
Okay, good.
Apart from my tight shirt.
Perfect. Well, the last question is kind of like, is there a final takeaway that you should take? But that probably covers it, isn't it? You're trying not to crowbar things.
Yeah. I'll do. And focus the action in the product.
Yeah, I just think we've learned so much in 18 months. And I think we're just learning all the time, aren't we? And that's the thing is...
Have you got a highlight in that 18 months that's kind of stood out?
Do you know, just so interesting. We were a very small business, 30 people, that when a customer signed up with us, the whole business went and on a go live, and it was a huge thing. And now we've gone to bigger business, 20 inside Focus as the Focus CX team.
Yeah.
Supporting how many people have Focus 13?
1300.
Yeah.
And there's been times where it's like, well, this is quite a big gig. We stood up in front of 500 people and did the sales kickoff
back in November,
just to talk about the technology. And I think the opportunity is massive, but that's driven because of what's going out there in the world. This is technology that people want to get involved in. From a salesperson's point of view inside the business,
it is exciting, isn't it?
There's never been a more exciting time to lean in and really, start understanding and having really interesting conversations with your customers. Like, it's so interesting from a customer's point of view. There's never been a better time to use technology to improve the way your business. We're looking at our inside Focus. How can we use AI to improve our business? It's something we're looking at every single day.
Again, and sorry, I'll keep going on about it, but the idea we're not really trying to replace anyone, are we? That's fundamentally not what we're trying to do. We are trying to improve businesses and give them access to additional revenue streams or operations that they weren't otherwise capable or able to handle. Turbocharge them, right? Yeah. We're not trying to cut staff, we're trying to enhance staff, and just wanted to make that clear.
And it is like you say, those conversations, it's a shift and a win-win for everyone, because you're going from how many users do you have in the business? Let's say it's that 5-user business. How many phones do you want? Some more phones, to actually kind of go really into, like, you're in their business with them, understanding where these dial turners can be made, and they're going, okay, well, we don't understand this bit. Let's understand this bit with this technology first, because we'll then get a clearer picture, and then we can make some more decisions off the back of it.
Yeah.
So Cool.
Great. Well, thanks.
Thanks very much,
amazing.
guys.
I can't believe you picked us for your first.
I know. God.
I wonder if we'll get a second.
I doubt it.
You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, start at the bottom.
Can only get better. No, thanks very much. It's been very useful and very insightful. So appreciate it, and thanks for everyone. If you've got to this point and you've listened all the way through,
If you stuck
great
with
stuff.
us,
Comment anything that we may have not covered that you're interested in, and there'll be links in any of this to
I really
get more
want to comment
information
on the shirt. Sam shirt.
Yeah, if you want to comment on Sam's shirt, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, please do.
And if anyone knew about the what GPT stand for, what was it?
Oh yeah, call me out. Generative pre-trained transformer. If I've got it wrong, I'm sure people will let me know.
Yeah, it may have just made that up.
I might have just made it
let us
up.
know.
I'm going to fully get called out.
I don't know the answers.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. Yeah, could be anything.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks everyone.
Yeah,
Great
cheers.
stuff.